but it became so crowded in a few minutes that there was hardly any place to move. At last, the whistle blew and the train began to move. I struck up acquaintance with two young men sitting by me. They were students of City College and were going to Deoghar. We soon became friends with one another. As the train moved on, we enjoyed the sights on the way. Bullock carts laden with goods were moving on heavily along dusty roads. Village girls were bathing or washing clothes in ponds full of moss and weeds. Bare-bodied youngsters tended cows, while grown-ups were busy in their fields. The train reached Asansol at about 1 p.m. My new friend and I shared our tiffin among ourselves. Leaving Asansol, we noticed the Indian Iron and Steel Works at Burnpur, a short way off. After Sitarampur, a distant change was noticed in the landscape. The fields were undulating and were full of shrubs and small trees here and there. The soil was reddish. At Chittaranjan we saw at a short distance the great Chittaranjan locomotive works that helped to make us self-sufficient in the matter of railway engine. When the train reached Madhupur, I saw my friend Mahendra waiting on the platform with his brother. They greeted me heartily, bidding farewell to my train friends. I got down with my luggage and reached Mahendra's house at about 5 in the evening. Thus I came to my journey's end. 16th. Visit to a place of interest. Points. The name of the place, its attraction, people, hotel. Conclusion. I am just back from a trip to Puri. As this is my first visit to that place, I enjoyed it very much. The chief attraction of Puri are the temple of Jagannath and the sea beach. The former is famous for its size and architecture, besides its sacredness to the Hindus. Thousands of devout Hindus flock to it to have darshan of the god and offer their homage at his feet. The sight of so many people, men and women, boys and girls, rich and poor, speaking different tongues and wearing different dresses, all joining together in common worship of the Lord, is a sight worth seeing. It has a purifying and ennobling effect upon the soul. The sea beach at Puri is known as the best in India. I passed about an hour or more every day in having my bath in the sea. In the afternoon, I strolled along the beach. The cool, refreshing breeze soothed the body, while the sight of huge foamy waves breaking upon the shore and the sun dipping slowly in the western horizon charmed the eyes and the mind. The place has a few other attractions. At the shrine of Lord Gauranga, people may see some of the things used by the Lord. Page number 730. The Gundichar Bari is the place about a mile from the temple of Jagannath, where every year on the occasion of the Ratha Jatra, the Lord and his brother and sister Balram and Subhadra are taken in their chariot for a week's stay. Narendra Sarovar and the ashrams of Bijoy Krishna Goswami and his disciples are three other noted places in the town. There is a large number of good hotels on the beach. The charges are very moderate. There are many dharamshalas in the heart of the town where the pilgrims can put up for a couple of days free of charge. The local people, though poor, are honest and friendly. Almost everybody can speak and understand Bengali. From Puri, I visited Konark, Bhubaneswar, Udaygiri and Khandagiri. Puri always draws maximum tourists from Bengal. Indeed, Puri is a unique place, particularly to a Hindu. A visit there satisfies his religious hunger and also his hunger for natural beauty and the need for physical improvement. This is why people from different parts of India flock to this place for the greater part of the year. particularly during September to June and at the time of Rath Yatra. 17th. Visit to a book fair. Points: introduction, different types of books, variety of stalls, visitors, main attraction, book bazaar, a sophisticated crowd. Conclusion: Publishers and Booksellers Guild organize book fairs at Milan Mela Prangan near Science City on EM Bypass, Kolkata every year. It has become one of the most interesting annual events of the city. I had no idea and could not have believed that a fair could be so entertaining and fascinating had I not visited it with my father this year. It was around 3 o'clock when we arrived there. The main entrance was tastefully decorated, and inside there were some 500 pavilions of varied shapes and sizes, held by different publishing houses. Nicely bound books on medicine, engineering, literature, politics, general knowledge, fiction, and others were thrown open to the public. And how beautiful they looked in their smart covers! Both paperbacks and hardbounds were attractively designed. The shapes and sizes of the books are also varied, along with their prices. While a set of Encyclopedia Britannica looked majestic in the environment, topping in price at 12,000 rupees, mini journals, the new entrants, looked rather pygmy at 1 rupee. But all of them had their admirers. Gradually, the visitors poured in and the whole area became crowded. Queues in front of certain stalls lengthened, and it became difficult to reach out for some books. Business at the counters was usually brisk, and I was informed that last year there was a transaction of about rupees 77 lakh in this fair. Customers were happy to get 10% discount at cash purchases. Some publishing houses brought out famous and rare books on this occasion. The main attraction of book fair were the book bazaars. Hungry people swarmed around these tables for selecting their books at throwaway prices. Children were also not forgotten. In fact, some stalls sold only juvenile literature, both international and national. There was something for everybody to suit his pocket and taste. Page number 731. Everybody carried a few packets and was looking for some more. Their energy seemed inexhaustible. How I wished to buy some more books in addition to the 4 I had already purchased. What a pity! I could not trace out certain books I was looking for, in spite of thorough search in this book jungle. In addition to book stalls, there were a number of canteens, and we took refreshments in one such place. The whole atmosphere was festive, with people moving freely. The crowd was also disciplined. Indeed, it was altogether a different type of fair, and I enjoyed every moment of my stay there. 18th. River scene in Bengal or journey by boat. Points: time, scenery after sunset, after moonrise, the environment, the banks at Dakshineshwar, the destination. Conclusion. Last Sunday, a few minutes before sunset, we hired a country boat at Neemtala Ghat and proceeded towards Dakshineshwar. It was a pleasant autumn evening, and there were specks of cloud tinged red by the rays of setting sun. We stood gazing at the sun, which sank below the horizon in a few minutes. An imposing calm prevailed. The trees and the buildings on both sides of the river looked beautiful. The small boats plying across the river made the scene really charming. Darkness gradually set in, and everything on both sides grew more and more indistinct till nothing could be seen except a dark sheet of water with small blinking light in other boats. Several launches passed by us, at some distance. They had powerful searchlights. Our eyes were dazzled with the lights which were often focused upon us. In the meantime, the moon rose. It was indeed a pleasant sight to see the play of moonbeams on the calm water. We could see the big buildings and gardens on the riverside in silvery light. The Belur Mutt looked enchanting. Rows of electric lamps extended over an area of more than 1 mile attracted our attention. Later, we came to know that it was the Alam Bazar jute mill. Soon we reached Dakineshwar. The temple and the garden filled our heart with joy. We sat on the steps leading to the temple yard and remained silent for some time. It was dead calm all around us. Only the soft splash of the river was heard at intervals. There was the cloudless sky above us, with the full moon and shining stars. We also heard a boatsman sing a song full of pathos. We were all touched by the lyric. Suddenly, we realized how late we were. We got back to the boat and returned to Calcutta. This beautiful boat trip won our heart. The beauty of nature, which we often miss, unfurled before us that day. I will ever remember the river scene at night for the rest of my life. Page number 732. Journey in a crowded bus. Points. Introduction. Traveling a hazard. Crowd, the conductor and the driver. Condition inside the bus. Misery of the passengers. A bitter experience. Conclusion. Traveling in buses is a hazard nowadays. They are always overcrowded with people hanging precariously or standing on the footboard. It is not that the people are doing so for pleasure or for fun of it. In most cases, they are forced to travel that way. The other day, I boarded a crowded bus while going to school. As usual, the bus was jam-packed and people were hanging dangerously on the footboard. The conductor checked the tickets of the disembarking passengers. Then, in a shrill voice, he asked the driver to proceed. I managed to hold the door handle and gradually pulled myself in. Inside, it was really suffocating and passengers were packed like sardines. The misery of the commuters, especially of the women and the children, knew no bounds. The lucky ones who were seated were a bit better off. The rest could hardly stand properly. It was stuffy inside and I was sweating profoundly. Those who wanted to get down had to literally fight to make their way. I was standing virtually on one leg, clinging to the overhead rod. Suddenly, a child started crying and the mother tried desperately to pacify him. Whenever a seat felt vacant, there was always a scramble for it. To make matters worse, the conductor was pushing us inside to make room for the new passengers. Occasionally, he was stretching his sweaty hands to collect fares. It was very difficult to stand properly because of the jostle inside. To add fuel to the fire, there was a constant chatter of the passengers. God knew about what. The driver was also very liberal to use the electric horn. It was ear-splitting. Furthermore, very often he was liberal to apply brakes sharply, and the passengers were thrown off their balance. They were swearing at the driver and advised him to drive carefully. Suddenly there was a cry, "Pickpocket, pickpocket," at the rear gate. I looked back immediately and saw a young man jumping out from the moving bus. The bus, however, did not halt. There was a bit commotion which gradually died down. By that time I felt exhausted. At last the bus reached my destination, and with a sigh of great relief I managed to squeeze through the crowd to get down. Indeed, it was the most gruesome and boring journey I had ever undertaken. 20th. Your aim in life. Points. The need of having a definite aim. Your aim. Reasons for your choice. Conclusion. There is a proverb that a man without a purpose is like a ship without a rudder. A rudderless ship drifts on at the mercy of the wind and waves. Even if it does not sink, it cannot reach the goal. Similarly, a man without a definite aim cannot succeed in life, as he cannot fix his mind on any particular thing. He simply wastes his time and energy in trying one thing after another in a half-hearted way. So it is necessary for every man to have a definite aim in life. For me, I have decided to go in for the education line. I propose to be a school teacher of a secondary school. Perhaps many will wonder, from the financial viewpoint, the lot of secondary school teachers in our state is the most miserable among the educated. If I still choose it as my future profession, it may give rise to a reasonable doubt about my mental balance. Page number 733. But I am quite serious and sincere. My father was a renowned headmaster. I had the good fortune of receiving my early education under him. His inspiring example has taught me that nothing can be nobler than to build up the character of the future hopefuls of the country. The young boys and girls of our secondary schools are in the most formative periods of their lives. The shape they are given then makes or mars their whole future, as well as the future of the country they belong to. Colleges do not allow opportunities for this direct influence. That is why education at the secondary stage is the most important period in the life of everybody and every nation. My ambition is to play my humble part in this important work. I have idealism and firm faith in my ability to inspire. These gifts I propose to dedicate to the service of our tender boys and girls. My mother has given her sincere blessings to my resolve. In fact, she cannot think of a higher profession than that of her late husband. I am sure she, with her blessings and my father's example, will keep me firm in my purpose and help me to achieve my ambition. 21. Your favorite hero. Points. Name of the hero. Reasons for your choice. His life's activities to justify your choice. Conclusion. My favorite hero is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. I do not interpret the word hero in the military sense only. To me, it has a much wider sense, meaning a person who overcomes almost insurmountable difficulties for a noble cause. Netaji Subhash achieved this in every field of activity, and so I look upon him as my ideal hero. Born with a silver spoon in his mouth, he had everything that worldly men desire. He might roll in wealth and pass his days in ease and comfort. He had great intelligence and could easily shine in the intellectual field. He passed the Indian Civil Service examination and could rise to the highest position in the government of the country. But nothing of these had any attraction for him. He was a born fighter and fought all his life for noble cause in utter disregard of everything personal and of the obstacles in the way. Even as a boy, he once tried to get out of the temptations of the world and become a sannyasi. He organized a band of workers for service to the poor and needy. In the college, a foreign professor once made an insulting remark about the Indians. This was more than the spirit of Subhash could bear. He took a leading part in defense of his country's honor, for which he had to leave the college. It was the same spirit that led him to give up the Indian civil service and begin a life of struggle for his country's freedom. And what a life this was! He braved the government and suffered imprisonment again and again. His health broke down under the rigors of prison life, but his spirit remained unbroken. He dared to differ with Mahatma Gandhi and other topmost political leaders on political questions. When an open fight became inevitable, he faced it rather than yield, and won to the surprise of the whole country. At the time of an annual session of the Indian National Congress, he was seriously ill, almost hovering between life and death. Page number 734. Still, disregarding all advice, he forced his family to carry him there. As he delivered his brief presidential address, lying in his sick bed, one held an ice bag on his head, another gave him medicine, while the doctor sat anxiously by, fearing for the worst. It was indeed a sight that filled every heart with wonder at the indomitable spirit of the man. And this spirit won over medical science, and Subhash Chandra recovered. At last came the greatest adventure of all. He had no faith in non-violent struggle, which was the accepted creed of all. So he left the country in disguise at great risk of life in order that he might obtain military help from outside for the country's freedom. The way in which he first reached Germany and the Eastern Asia to raise the INA reads like a story from the Arabian Nights entertainments. He had no military experience before, but the magic of his name worked wonders. Indians all over Eastern Asia, men and women, boys and girls, rich and poor, Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs, gathered round him. They called him their Netaji, revered leader, and marched under him towards the borders of India. He died a hero's death, but his object was realized. His cries of Jai Hind and Delhi Chalo were taken up by the whole country. The British had to leave India for good, and the land became free. It will be thus seen that Subhash Chandra fought hard battles all his life in every sphere of human activity, spiritual, social, political and military. No obstacles, no difficulties, no temptations could daunt his spirit. Indeed, history has few examples of all-round heroes like him. 22nd. The most memorable day in your life. Points. Introduction, time and occasion, the event concerned, why memorable. I am in my middle teens with limited experiences. Still, I have no hesitation in singling out a particular day as the most memorable one in my short life. It was some 3 years back. I was then at Haridwar with my parents in connection with some religious festival. They are disciples of a great saint famous all over India, but I had never seen the saint before, because he generally passed his days away from the din and bustle of worldly life. While we were at Haridwar, my father one day told me that his preceptor too had come there, and our family would go the next day to offer homage to him. Naturally, I was in great excitement. What was the saint like, or was he like others whose very presence sheds sweetness all around? Above all, should my boyish heart be able to feel his saintly charm? On the appointed day, we went to the hill on the opposite bank of the Ganges. We were received by an attendant and seated in a room-like cave. We were told that the saint was engaged in prayer in his cell. but would be out shortly. After about half an hour or so, I saw the saint creep up from his cell and appear before us. He looked near about 60, with a long beard, a dazzling complexion, and an almost divine sweetness in his face, particularly in his eyes and lips. We all stood up and bowed down before him. After he had blessed us all, my father introduced me to him. Page number 735. He now looked so affectionately and sweetly at me that something like a spell fell upon me at once. I realized, even in my boyish heart, wherein lay his saintliness. He asked me a few ordinary questions, to which I replied with intense joy, mixed with humility. The interview lasted for about half an hour, but it has left an enduring impression on my mind. I not only met and talked with a great saint, but received his blessings for a good and useful life in future, and his words have been an inspiration to me ever since. 23rd. If I win a lottery. Points. Purchase of lottery tickets regularly. Best way of becoming rich. Plans. Visit abroad. Help to family. Building rooms. Sister's marriage. Family expenses. Charity. Donation to school. Club. Feast with friends. Educational and personal expenses. Who does not want to be rich overnight? And the best way to be rich quickly is to win a lottery. With this idea in my mind, I have already started purchasing lottery tickets regularly. I have always been optimistic, and I am waiting for the day when Dame Fortune will actually smile on me. Well, here is my budget for a prize bag of rupees 5 lakh. Let me be frank, I am not selfish, but I would like to spend a good amount for my personal pleasure only. I have my uncle in London, and it is my secret desire to visit him. I would also like to visit European cities like Paris, Hamburg, Bonn, Zurich, and other places I have read much about. I have a pen friend in Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark. I also desire to give him a surprise call while over there. I have no idea how much it would cost me. Still, I hope it will be around rupees 1.5 lakhs, all inclusive. I will hand over rupees 50,000 to my father to add 2 more much needed rooms to our existing house. We are an average middle class family, and my father works hard to keep us going, so I must help him as much as I can. Pia is my only sister, and she is very dear to me. She is already 20, and I hope in a year or 2 she will get married. I have decided to buy cash certificates to the tune of rupees 30,000 in her name. I can well imagine how happy she would be when she gets the gifts from me to start a new life. Helping my mother a little in her tight budget is also another secret wish of mine. I have planned another rupees 50,000 to help her to tide over her difficulties. I think it would be unfair and unjust, and also against my nature, if I do not donate some amount to charities. I have earmarked rupees 10,000 to be handed over to Ramakrishna Mission. Would it not be proper to donate a couple of thousands to the local primary school where I started my education? The financial position of my club is always on the rocks. Therefore, helping it with a few thousands in the form of fixed deposits would not be a bad idea, I think. Last but not the least, I would like to have a gala picnic with my friends at my coast at Digha. Now I shall be left with a big amount which I propose to put in a bank to cover all my educational and personal expenses. With all these exciting ideas already chalked out, at least mentally. I am anxiously waiting for the memorable day when I am really going to win a lottery. Page number 736.